what to say after that, but, well, I thought I'd say this before I had some wine. In cleaning out my desk, and those of you who've seen the mountain that posed as my desk, knows the daunting process that must have been. Well, I found this article by Eric Anderson. There he is. That he wrote about us when Tim and I were first called to serve as co-directors of Silver Lake. And he wrote, "Together, Tim and Ann, blah, 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 bring gifts of management, vision, creativity, love for Silver Lake and its heritage and future, and a commitment to diversifying participation at the lake, reaching out to all our churches. They spoke to the search committee of the Silver Lake community as a village where people can experience living together for a week with people who are different and thus give hope to the world." And wrote of the unofficial vocations they have committed to: building faith community and fiercely nurturing the children in our village, fostering creative and artistic expression, celebrating life transition rituals, communing with nature, conserving God's creation, working on our own growth and health, expressing love, and listening to God's call, humor, and sometimes silence. It seemed to pop up into my hands just at a kind of poignant moment of leave-taking of the position, as if to affirm, hey, you know what? We did that. We did make that vision a little more real. And you just heard from Sam and Andy in many stories and layers of beloved community, which each of you represent so preciously in your presence and your celebration of this transition and this ministry tonight. I am truly humbled and more grateful than you will ever know. And my thoughts and heart, I've been thinking about this all week, first goes out to those who stood as the foundation of this arc of beloved community that we were able to build on at Silver Lake. And I want to pay tribute and honor to those mentors and spiritual guides and elders who have passed away during our 11 years tenure. So I was thinking a lot about Reverend Hank Jordan, our minister at First Congregation on the Green in Norwalk, and our chaplain in 2005 at Silver Lake, just maybe 5 to 6 weeks before he died. And he preached his last sermon to about 150 of our campers. "I've fought the good fight, I've finished the race," and he told all the conferees that he was ready to go home in his final preaching. So Henry's son Nate, who is with us tonight, and his wife Mary, and their children who have been on our staff since then, well, he sent out this message yesterday, which I found was just so serendipitous and maybe grace-filled. So his email said, "This email went out from the Blessed and Highly Favored blog yesterday morning, and Minnie says she has nothing to do with it. It just popped out of nowhere in some digital cloud and went out to people. And it seems like there's a sort of connection with the extravagance of Fancy Camp Gala." And he wrote, this was Hank, "Let us all be foolishly, extravagantly loving this week." And his sermon in 2000, I think he preached it in 1987 as well, he preached about the woman who lavishly and extravagantly poured out oil and perfume on Christ's feet at the home of Simon the leper, and how he considered her impulse of love not prudence or efficiency. And Nate, in his email, wondered how apropos this was in the context of Fancy Camp Gala. How such frivolous celebrations of extravagance and love. Henry K. Jordan said, "I suggest to you that this evening, that doing good is not sufficient. Efficient, perhaps, but not sufficient. Yes, the world needs good people." I could just hear him say this. "Yes, Christ calls us to obedience. Yet still, our hearts crave more than goodness and prudence. There is a prompting within us to seize the opportunity to act upon the now or never, to do the daring deed of love, which once done can never be undone." With his cane. Yet I do feel that Tim and I were prompted onto this journey and opportunity to take on this role as co-directors by a cloud of witnesses like Hank. And then in 2007, Tim's dad at 87 died after a brief illness. And my mom and dad decided to plant 2 Japanese cherry trees in his memory at Silver Lake that blossom spectacularly every spring since, one by the Health and Welcome Center and one by our house. And then my dad, battling with multiple myeloma, passed kind of abruptly in 2010, and we planted an apple tree at Silver Lake in the meadow in his memory. Then Tim's mom, and later that year, Alden Tyrrell in the spring of 2011, during Maple Sugaring Weekend at Silver Lake. And I gotta tell you, Alden and Ruth gave us consults and encouragement and their unwavering friendship and support in this role. They knew how hard this job was and how immersive this life is. And they encouraged us to reach out to our outdoor ministry colleagues for a circle of support and confidence, which I am ever grateful for. And we will be planting more trees to remember the legacy of these guides. And there were a lot more parents, Val's mom and dad, and then Betty's mom. And these weren't just friends' parents, but these were Silver Lake parents, enthusiastic parents who kept showing up for every Sing Praise, for every event, every Silver Lake event, and who personally showered Tim and I with their love and encouragement. And when I think about them, I think about, well, the music must be better on the other side. And their souls must trust us to carry on the work of what they really started decades and decades ago with youth ministry and really investing in the youth of Connecticut. And I really feel that way. I feel that this is sacred and entrusted work to us, that we have been foolishly anointed, doused extravagantly with their fragrant oil and love. But by far the greatest pleasure and satisfaction and privilege of this position in 11 years has to be witnessing the growth and thriving of all of these young people. From campers and counselors and staff and leaders like Sam and Andy and out into the world. I mean, often at Dean's Retreat, we can count up to 13 deans who were one-time conferees of Tim and mine, and Val and Wendy's and all the rest of you, when we deaned conferences in the 90s and early 2000s. And I get endless delight and pride from witnessing all the grown-ups in the room who were our campers, staff, counselors, deans, who have become parents themselves, and ministers and teachers and nurses and doctors and youth directors and camp directors and outdoor educators, outdoor adventure leaders, deacons, cooks, missionaries, social workers, admissions counselors. I take uninvited, foolish pride in each and every one of you. And especially in the care you demonstrate in caring for your conferees, the campers that come after you. Special need campers like Carl, where's Mike, who you had to remember to put out his special snack every night from the kitchen. The kid that was scared and stuck halfway up the crow's nest that you rescued with such grace and self-determination, dignity, and how you swam alongside that kid on at least 2 laps and 30 seconds of treading water so that he might this time finally pass his swim test. And the late ER visits that you accompanied due to the sprained ankles and the broken arms and the stitches, even without me because I threw a tantrum at midnight, thank you, Ken Peterkin. After the emergency phone rang and on the last night of the last week at camp because I was so exhausted, I'm not going, I just can't go to one more ER visit. Tim, you have to go, I'm not going. All of you camp family, mom and dads, raise your hand. Yeah. Where's Alan? Who had to fire your kids or had to talk your kids out of quitting or had to redo their work, or when you swelled with pride because your family got the job done before Dean's meeting, or because before staff show and finally former staff noticed and complimented you. How many of you served in that sacred, anointed, foolish, extravagantly loving role and poured your heart out onto 12 or 14 teenagers for a whole summer and maybe ever after? You all leapt at the invitation to join, participate, and build beloved community, and discovered that you suddenly cared a whole lot about a whole lot more people, maybe forever. And you suddenly cared about the place that fostered that caring, Silver Lake, and its ministry. And for better for worse, you became a lavish enthusiast, loving unabashedly this extravagant and foolish place. And I am so honored when you ask me for references to witness that enthusiasm and expression of unabashed love that you seek entrance to colleges or an apartment lease or grad school or your next real job. And you let me expound to your potential employer how real and important this camp job is. And even if you don't get in, Alan, or Teach for America, or get that great fellowship, or get that job you really want, I will always feel personal pride forever in your successes and personal disappointment and a little insulted that my reference didn't shove open that door for you with you and your failures. I do take it personally. Beloved community invites itself to share in your heartbreaks and losses as well. And that's why each of you showed up tonight. And that's why you showed up for us when we mourned our own losses. We have invited ourselves into sharing those life journeys with you and those transitions and rituals with each other. And this sacred role as co-directors has offered such a precious opportunity to expand our world and to care about each other with that lavish, foolish love. And I'm trusting that as I have stepped down from this role, and that our beloved community somehow will endure. I still claim all of you. Like our gospel choir Cootie May would say, even after she retired, you are all still my children. And I just want to insert, I want to forever be your cool, foolish, indulgent aunt. Because that's pretty cool, and I'm ever grateful. For that privilege of serving 11 years as your co-director, I want to thank our conference ministers, past and present. Where's Davida? There she is. Kent, our present conference minister. And Charlie, where is he? Here he is. Charlie has been a tireless, if occasionally confounded, supporter, supervisor, and friend. And all the conference staff. God bless Eric. I'm so proud to become an ex-con for staff. And most of all, I thank my husband and co-director, Tim, who shared the journey with me. He now bravely and with all of your support and collaboration picks up the mantle of leadership of Silver Lake and will find new ways to build on this vision. Commitment to diversifying participation of the lake, reaching out to all our churches and all God's children, and giving hope to the world, and fiercely nurturing the children, fostering creative artistic expression, celebrating life transition rituals, environmental justice. And I thank you for the privilege of serving this sacred call. Silver Lake is indeed in good hands. It is in good hands. It is like our site manager, Greg, is here, I believe. Where is he? There he is. We are so lucky to have Greg returning, and his wife Pam Ariffian, our environmental justice director at Silver Lake. Alan Munschauer is standing in the back of the room there as our assistant director. And all of you deans, counselors, leaders, board members, volunteers, builders, Silver Lake is in really good hands, your hands. So Hank in this sermon said, I suggest to you this evening that doing good is not sufficient. Efficient perhaps, but not sufficient. He said, seize the opportunity to act upon the now or never, to do the daring deed of love, which once can be done, can never be undone. We're yielding to our heart's deepest desire, the desire to do the extravagant, loving deed of daring do to once and for all squander it all in love for Christ. He said, crown him, Lord of all. Squander all on the conviction that he who sits at the table with Simon the leper, with every outcast, with all the rejected, is indeed God's Messiah. Let's go with the lady who lovingly anoints the Savior for his Calvary appointment. These are Hank's words. Whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are gracious, we do think on these things. The soul is not satisfied with institutional goodness. Give way, my friends, to the foolishness of love, the extravagance of grace. Seize the chance that love discerns. He said, what this woman did was lovely. It was love extravagance. It was opportunity, love discerned and seized. She anointed the Lord's anointed. Wherever the gospel is preached, what she did is told of her. Foolish woman, foolish God, foolish people. You are the fragrance of Christ. And for you, foolish God, foolish people of Fancy Camp, you fancy campers, you are anointed. You are anointing going forth in your fancy, foolish extravagance of tonight to be the fragrance of God. And I hope we can return next year at harvest time to celebrate this growing, anointed, beloved community and all that Silver Lake harvests and our foolish love of one another. Thank you for showing up and showing off your foolish love for this ministry and for me and for Tim. I do indeed love you. Thank you.